What's up everybody, this is Brenton Brown from Forza Tuning and Performance, and today's video is a follow-up to a previous video that we did that basically was kind of like we had a lot of people inquiring how did Forza get started, how did I get into cars, just kind of general questions that people wanted a video on. So I'm not a super big fan of talking about myself. After the first video we had some follow-up, inquiries, can you do a part 2? Some people asked specific questions. So I'm gonna go a little bit in depth. There's gonna be a link in a video to the first one. I'm gonna try to not repeat myself or bore you with details that I've already covered to begin with. Trust me, I watched the video myself before I did this to make sure that I don't do that. The first video, it's kind of like initial, like how I got into cars, just kind of childhood, and then what got me into the car industry. And then kind of like the, just a brief overview of how Forza started. So I've got more specific questions, as far as like business related questions, as far as like how I got here, but specifically. So I'm gonna try to do a follow-up video, which will be this, and try to give you some scenarios and stuff. I'm trying to really think of a way for this video to be beneficial to anybody that might be wanting to get into an industry like this, or maybe a lot of this applies to anything in life, not just the car industry. My mom and dad can attest to, I have literally had to learn everything the hard way my entire life, still to this day. If I can pass on anything at all that makes anybody's life easier in any way, shape, or form, I'm happy to do it. I get a lot of people saying it must be nice to own your own business, okay? And obviously there's goods and bads to every single thing in life. And I can't say that I would really go back and change anything. I could have definitely made smarter decisions through the way, but that's, I think with anything in life, hindsight's 20/20, you just don't know. But as far as, the most common comment that I hear, or overall misconception in my mind is, it must be nice to own your own business. Why? Because you're your own boss. You can do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. I can promise you that that is the furthest thing from the truth. So for anybody out there that is wanting to be an entrepreneur of any type, or wanting to start a business or work for themselves, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that. What I think you should have is a realistic idea of what that actually is, okay? I touched on it in the last video, but this is really important because I probably hear this more than anything else. It's just simply not reality, okay? So I can just give you my simple scenario to apply this to. Yes, I am the boss technically of the people that work for me and under me. That is not a stress-free position to have, okay? Number one, I am not my own boss. I don't get to do whatever I want to do. Every single customer or client that comes in here is relying on me to help them lay out their car, or a package, or whatever they want out of their car, okay? Because they're passionate about cars, so it's my responsibility to help them in a morally correct way, to not steer them in a way to just spend money based off sales, what's really going to be good for them financially and to meet their goals. A lot of people instill a lot of trust in me, so that takes huge responsibility that comes with that. And I can tell you there's some really good shops out there, and there's also some shops that are much more concerned with selling stuff as opposed to guiding people in the right way. It's unfortunate, but it's just the way it is, and it's not just in the car industry, it's just, I believe it's in every single business model out there. As a consumer, it can be very challenging to try to sift through and find who's genuine and who's not. And I can't really tell you like a real good way to do that, because I've been taken advantage of as a consumer multiple times, The idea, or the misconception, I guess, that you're your own boss and you get to do whatever you want. I have more bosses than anybody, because every single person that comes in here or calls me or is gonna take their hard-earned money and spend it here is my boss. Okay, so every single customer we have, I have to answer to them. I have a responsibility morally, as well as, they're relying on me and what I say and what I do to their car to make sure that it's correct and it's in their best interest, and it's getting the most for their money, and I'm not taking advantage of them. You can ask my ex-wife, or you could ask my girlfriend now. It takes an incredible amount of time. My girlfriend now is extremely patient. I'm surprised I'm not single, honestly. A lot of times I probably should be, because I'm answering calls at 11, 12 o'clock at night. And this is not just the car industry, this is anybody that starts up a business. This is just reality. You do not have to do this, but the chances of you making it are slim to none, because there's other people out there competing against you, and they're hungry, they're trying to beat you. Succeeding among all the competition is not a cakewalk by any means. So you don't get to do whatever you want to do unless what you want to do is work incessantly, okay? And that's what it takes to make it. You have to sacrifice your free time, you have to sacrifice basically everything for the end goal of making it, in the hopes that you can succeed in the end and the end goal will pay off. So that's the reality of it. And I'm not trying to talk anybody out of like trying to go for their dreams or anything like that. I think everybody should absolutely like try to come up with something, and if you have goals or dreams or aspirations, that you should, not listen to the naysayers, and you should do literally whatever you can in your power to do it. But not under the misconception that it's going to be easy, or it's not going to take a lot of work, and it's not going to take a tremendous amount of sacrifice to get there, because it is, I promise you. Going into it with that type of attitude, I can promise you, you will fail. So that's probably the number one thing that I hear that's totally ridiculous. People contact me and they have business ideas, and a lot of it is they want to know my opinion of it. To be honest, like, I'm fairly knowledgeable in the automotive industry just because I've done it for so long. Some people ask me questions or advice on business models that honestly I'm not qualified to answer. I don't know. I'm not going to bullshit anybody and tell them I know something about something that I don't. So automotive wise, I feel like I can give at least some helpful insight. So one thing that I get asked is, somebody has an idea and they're into cars, they like cars, and it's, how do you get the working capital to start, a car shop? I can tell you how I did it, and I'm not aware of any easier way. So I'm just gonna tell you basically my story on how I did it. And I would say that it's a pretty common method. It's not gonna be real fun and glorified, and it just is what it is. On the last video, I'm just gonna skim through this real quick because I don't wanna bore anybody that's already seen it. I took over a performance shop that already existed. The guy running it was stealing this and that. The owner of the place, that was a silent partner, he asked me to run the business. The business was in a very bad financial situation, okay, because of this guy that was stealing money, obviously. The silent partner was a very wealthy individual through different avenues. He had nothing to do with cars, okay? He's an incredible person. He's one of the people that definitely changed the direction of my life, 100%. I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for meeting this individual. And not that he specifically gave me money, was an example for me to look at, okay? He made an incredible amount of money. He was very successful what he did, and he started from nothing. And that was the first person in my life that I've met that had actually done that. Hearing your parents will say, yo, you can do anything you want to do, and this and that. It sounds great, but it's coming from your parents, and realistically, it's your parents, okay? So at least for me, until I actually see it in real life, it's hard to believe that. So he actually did that, and I had no connection with this guy. He is a extremely good friend of mine, still today. Long story short, he had already lost an incredible amount of money because of the guy that he had in place running the business. So by the time I took it over, he was incredibly frustrated with the place, and very well he should have been. I ran it for a short amount of time before basically he was just like, this is crazy. I'm making all this money in these other ventures. I don't want to lose any more money in this, okay? Which is totally understandable. So he approached me and he's like, look, I don't want to lose you. I have multiple businesses. I want you to work somewhere for me. I don't want to lose you, but I just don't want to invest any more money in this car thing. What I've done is already stupid. I've lost too much, and I just want to end it. So I was posed with a decision. I know that I could have taken him up on his offer. He would have probably been extremely generous with what he had paid me, and he would have found me a place in one of his businesses that I probably could have excelled and probably done really, really well. But it wouldn't have been anything I would have been passionate about. It would have just been strictly financial and in some way, shape, or form, quote unquote, easy. And again, I have to learn the hard way, so that wasn't too appealing to me, okay? I was hell-bent on doing this car thing. It had been something I wanted to do my entire life. I declined the offer, and I told him that I wanted to try to make the car thing work. And so he did compromise with me. He said, he gave me a set amount of money. I think it's 20 grand, and the business was so far in the hole, it was ridiculous. So 20 grand might sound like a lot of money, but with the situation it was in, it was not. So, he said, okay, I'll put 20 grand back into it. After that, I'm done. Whatever happens, happens, and you always have a job. So I'll be 100% honest. So my agreement with him when he first hired me was he was going to pay me $1,000 a week. At that point, he ingested $20,000 into the business account. It was my responsibility to do whatever I could do with it. The name was trashed. The guy that was running it was, for a lack of a better word, a total jackass. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. Not a very good person. So I muddled along and did whatever I could to try to turn this business around. And I did this for about a year and a half. It was an absolute miserable time. The amount of stress that it was, I can't even really fathom or explain in words. Up to this point, I had a stellar reputation in what I did. I've always taken a ton of pride in what I did. And so now my name is associated with this other business that's associated with this jackass basically that was running it. In hindsight, what I should have done was just shut the business down and start under a new name or something like that. And I debated it several times, but again, I'm extremely hard-headed. In my head, I'm like, I can turn this around, I can do it. For about a year and a half, I went down this road, okay? So I had employees and I had vendors and everything else, and I really didn't know anything about running a business at that time. So I bought literally every accounting book I could find. And I'm not much of a reader, and accounting bores the living shit out of me. But it was a necessity. I had to do it or I was going to fail. Okay, so it really was irrelevant whether I liked it or wanted to do it. You either do it or you fail. I'm by no means an accountant or any specialist, but I did get a general understanding of how to run a business, okay, and how to operate QuickBooks and how to do it to the best of my ability. I ran the business for about a year and a half, okay, and there was a lot of times where there was no money to pay myself. I could either not pay an employee or not pay a vendor or not pay myself because he's already given me a limit. It's $20,000, that's it. I'm not having anything else to do with the business. So at any point in time, I could have stopped, but I didn't want to give up on the idea. Over the course of probably this year and a half, I had not taken home roughly like $10,000 in pay. If there was only $100 left that I could allot, then I would pay myself $100. The reason I'm telling you this is because anything you do like this is going to take sacrifice. And this is the one thing that I can probably see, especially the younger generation, that they can't conceptualize or wrap their head around it. Anything you do like this that's out of the norm, or really anything, is going to require sacrifice. The people that make it really far, it's not like they're incredibly gifted a lot of times or incredibly intelligent or have all this natural talent. Honestly, I believe before anything, it's work ethic and what your pain threshold is, how much sacrifice that you can take. After about a year and a half, it was evident that this was not going to work. I was end up going to tarnish my name to salvage this business that wasn't even mine. I approached the guy that owned the business, and I went over it with him. And he tried to get me to work for one of his other companies, and that's not really what I wanted to do. And so I had this idea that I could make it work, but what I needed to do is start my own business, totally fresh, just my name, and so on and so forth. He was very supportive. He helped me a lot. He agreed to that, and I asked him if I could lease the building from him, and he agreed, and he gave me a very, very more than fair price on the building. He wanted me to succeed. I knew that he believed that I could do it, which that was inspiring even in a time where I'm literally not taking any money home. Very rough time, obviously. He agreed to lease me the building, and that's when I started Forza. It was January of 2014. So November 2013 is when I started laying out a business model. And what I mean by that is this is not some big professional business model. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I had all these notes on a kitchen table, and I laid out this huge plan. I've always been able to kind of have a knack. I don't view things as most people do. I kind of view them on a much bigger scale, and my dad laughs. He always said, like, Brenton, he's famous for these big brain ideas. And a lot of them were stupid ideas, but the point of it is, I think of things on a much bigger scale. So I had a model, had an idea, and he gave me a good deal on the building. He was unaware that I had not paid myself. His sister basically handled the different accounts of the different businesses for him. And she actually approached him and told him, be like, do you know that he has not paid himself, you know, a lot of times? And he was like, you know, why? And she's like, well, there was no money, and he knew he couldn't ask you for money, so he just didn't pay himself. So he called me over to his house, and I went over there and he asked me about it, and I said yes. And he said, you know, why did you do that? Why didn't you just tell me? And I was like, because you told me that you only wanted to put $20,000 into it. I respected that because, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. So I didn't feel right asking you for money. I'm the one that wanted to pursue it. He wrote me a check for right around $10,000, okay? And it was basically the amount that I did not take home over the course of time that he, you know, originally had promised, like $1,000 a week, okay? So I started Forza with my tools, a very fair deal on his building, and $10,000. And I opened the business account. My grandma meant the world to me when she was alive. She gave me a check, I think it was for like, it was right around Christmas, and she gave me a check, and it was like $500. And I still have this check, I have it framed, okay? So just a meaningful purpose, that is what I went and opened my business account with. Once I registered for a business, an S Corp, I opened my business account at the bank with the check, and I did it like remotely so I could keep the actual check and have it framed. I started with 500, and he gave me 10,000. So I had $10,500 to my name. So before I started this, I had a house. It wasn't a crazy nice house, but it had, you know, a big garage, and I had a couple motorcycles, and I had a lower Tahoe, and built engine, and you know, stuff that I had built. So before I started the business, I basically liquidated and sold everything that I had. I sold my house, I sold everything except one motorcycle, okay? And if you see the videos like that Hayabusa in the background, that's the bike. And what I was doing is I was not accruing money, I was paying off any debt that I had, because I did not want to start down this venture with any debt. I knew it would just make it harder, my chance of surviving less. So I sold every single thing that I had. The guy that owned the building rented me a house that he owned that was empty for cheap, a little farmhouse, little junky farmhouse. So I had to have a car. So I bought literally an old Honda CRX. It was red, it was a total piece of shit. I think I paid like $1,200 for the thing. No air conditioning, nothing. You know, a lot of people are like, what do you drive? What do you drive? You know, I'll tell you what I drive now. It's nothing spectacular, but that's literally what I did to start this. People would laugh because I drove this car. It was just a total piece of shit, but I basically had to give up everything that I had. I cashed out my 401k, and I paid any debt that I had off. Okay, so I accrued any penny that I could get together and start this. Here we are, day one at Forza. It's January 4th, it's Indiana, it's freezing, it's miserable. I'm in this building, no cars. I bought a version of QuickBooks. There's no vendors, I don't know how to use it. There's literally nothing. To say that I was scared shitless would be an understatement of the century. When I say I thought I could make it, I think I probably wanted to believe that I could make it more than I actually believed that I could make it. Because my business model was I was gonna do exotic cars. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. Everybody thought I was literally a fucking idiot. My parents were like, what are you doing? You can go get a job for the city, you can get benefits. Everybody thought I was out of my mind, you know, but in my mind, I believed that I could do this, and I think that's very important, okay? So what I'm about to tell you is something that I want you to pay attention to, and this is extremely important, okay? There is a very fine line between having a dream and a goal and it being realistic or fictional. Okay, and there's really no way to differentiate between the two. A lot of times when somebody has an idea, it's not reachable and it's stupid, it's silly until the person does it. And then afterwards, it's a good idea if you make it, okay? So the person that's taking the risk on it, there's no way to tell. That's just the way it is. I had no idea if I was gonna make it. I only had one of two options. I was either going to make it or I was going to fail miserably and have basically nothing to show for it. That's something that I think every entrepreneur or younger person that has this goal or something that they're wanting to achieve, that's gonna be something that's gonna be a very hard decision for them to make. And there's nobody that can help you make that decision. I wish there was advice that I could give you on that, but it's not. It's basically walking out on a limb. It's I can't really explain what it's like. And I think it's why a lot of people don't try to push, because it's scary as shit. Honestly, you're basically putting everything on the line for an idea that could totally fail at any point in time. Okay guys, this wraps up part 2. So we're gonna break this up into 3 different sections. It's just a lot to cover. That's kind of why I kind of skimmed through some stuff on the first one. I really didn't anticipate people honestly giving a shit that much about what I had to say. But we got a lot of inquiries, so I'm more than happy to talk about whatever. I don't really hide anything. They're gonna break it up into 3 sections. So this will wrap up stage 2. Stage 3, I'll give you the rest of the story. So again, thank you for watching. Hope this helps you out. If you subscribed, thank you, we appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, we hope that you will. Give us a chance, give our videos a chance. Hit the notification bell, and we'll see you in the next video.